that belief of everything must be perfect all the time, that sets impossible goals, and you're going to feel crushed when you don't achieve them. So strive to do your best. That sets more of a challenge, but also something that's more achievable. When you try to be perfect all the time, you're going to be resistant to change. You're not going to be as flexible, and you're going to think that, well, this is a strength of mine because I'm not going to change my what I'm doing. I'm not going to be flexible. That's what makes me stand out, and that's my strength. But at the same time, dig deeper and see this perfectionism that you're focused on so much. If you look deeper, it's going to cause you. Perfectionism contributes to a lot of problems like procrastination, stress, anxiety, depression, because you're so focused on being perfect that you're not even you're focused on one little thing and you're not getting a whole bunch of other stuff done.
You're listening to the Black to Business podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Before we dive into the episode, I want to provide a disclaimer. The content in this episode contains information and discussions of mental illness and mental health crisis and incarceration, which some listeners may find triggering. If you need support at any time, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, toll free at 1-800-273-TALK. Trained crisis workers are available to talk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Today's discussion is about mental health and coping mechanisms. In this day and age, we are no strangers to the importance of mental health and protecting it, whether it be ours or those around us. The entrepreneurship journey is one aspect that continues to challenge our mental health. And often when we are in seasons where we are struggling to cope with the challenges and transitions that may come with the journey, we may lose ourselves. Today, we tackle the elephant in the room. How do you cope in the midst of anxiety over the unknown, stagnation, and perfectionism amongst a list of hurdles that the entrepreneurship journey throws at us? Our guest today has not only unpacked the important sentiments of coping and creating healthy systems, but has also got me in check, poking in my I got this superhero mode and truly challenging everything I've come to know about mental health and the journey to success. I don't think you're ready. You might need to pause a few times in this episode and let it sink in. Joining me today is Dr. Tina Webb, therapist, mentor, entrepreneur, and host of Coping Season with Dr. Tina Webb. She has cracked the code on finding coping mechanisms that can speak to each individual in whatever season you may be in. Let's dive into it. So, Dr. Tina, welcome to the Black to Business podcast. We're so excited to have you on the podcast. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, of course. Now, I first want to start, I like to start by asking if you could just take some time to share for my new listeners who are new to you, a little bit about your story. How did you get where you are today? And what is it that you do in your business?
Okay. Hi, I'm Dr. Tina Webb. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I also have a doctorate degree in social work. And what I do is, I have a podcast as well. It's called Coping Season with Dr. Tina Webb. And and it's a mental health podcast. And basically what I do is, I feel like entertainment is such a huge part of Black culture. And so it's something that's interesting to us. We are interested in celebrities and what they're doing. And so what I do is take an approach to where I talk about issues, mental health issues in the Black community using stories from some of our entertainers and celebrities in the community. So it's just a thought-provoking, funny, entertaining podcast. And we talk about everything like dating, health issues, mental health issues, just everyday stressors that Black men and women face, personal development, and just everything. So it's, I use it as a tool to just promote mental and emotional wellness and just life-changing insights to help Black men and Black women learn to heal and cope with the effects of mental and emotional distress. So that's what the podcast is. And then also in my work, I'm a therapist, so I actually meet with clients and just to break the stigma about mental health in the Black community. Mental health is everything. It's, when you go through a breakup, you're dealing with some mental health. When you can't eat, can't sleep, or you're irritated, upset, you're having issues at work, you feel like people are messing with you. And, people come to therapy for stuff like this. And it's just talking and getting another perspective and ways to just deal with these everyday issues that come about in our life. So I guess I would say I'm more of a social change leader. I look at what's affecting vulnerable populations, mostly my focus is the Black community, because I feel like we've been neglected, we've been rejected, we've been everything. And so this is our safe space where we can come and talk about issues, come to therapy, listen to the podcast. There's resources that I provide on social media. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's Dr. Tina Webb, DrTinawebb. And yeah, so let me see, what else can I tell you all? I grew up in Long Beach, California. And after graduating high school, I moved around a little bit when I was young. And after graduating high school, I joined the Air Force. So I served 7 years in the Air Force as military police. Once I got out of the Air Force, I went into, I worked just a variety of different jobs for like different counties, the city, just doing things. I've done parking enforcement. I've done security guard. I've done all kinds of things. I've worked in juvenile halls as a detention officer for probation. And then, all during that time, I've raised my kids. I have 2 sons, and then I would go to school at night and whenever I could get it in. And then once I got my degree, I moved into mental health. That was something that was always of interest to me. Well, people always used to tell me, oh, you're such a good listener, you easy to talk to and all of that. But I didn't really know like what kind of job. I just was like, okay, that's just my personality. And then later on, I was like, well, how can I make that into a career? So then it was like, people come into your space sometime and you don't know the reason. And I met this lady and she was a social worker. And, I always thought of social workers as like they come and take your kids away. But there's so much more that, I'm a clinical social worker. So we work in hospitals, schools, I've worked in the jails. I've gone into people's homes, talked to them, talked to kids, adults, older adults, whoever. And there's so many different settings to work in this field. And I just, I enjoy helping people. I think the greatest joy is when you see somebody who is in such despair, they feel so hopeless. And then later you see them and they come out of it, life gets better. And just helping people to realize that what you're going through right now is temporary. It's not permanent. Nothing is final. You have, doctors don't have the final say. Your boss at work doesn't have the final say. It's about how you choose to see the situations that you're in, how you think about the situations that are happening to you in life affects how you feel about it. And that's what affects our behavior. So changing your thoughts and your perspective of situations can help to change the outcome, and just seeing people live their best lives after not living at all, not living for what's happening right now and being so focused on what's happened in the past, what this person did to me or this situation that happened to me. And that's why I can't progress now. Or people focusing on the future, and worried about things that haven't even happened yet or that may not happen. And instead of focusing on what's here in the present, enjoying the people around you that love you, reaching out and finding other avenues of support. If you didn't have your family to support you and you came from dysfunction, there are still other ways and other people to build that community for yourself. And so that's what I'm doing with my podcast. And also when I meet with people, when I do speaking engagements, is building community for us to support each other, be there for each other, and just heal as a group.
Wow. Like that's just like the whole podcast right there. It's like that was a word, because it's so like, it's so much I want to dive into, and such an amazing story. Your background. And I think people can relate in that it's something that people keep asking you about and telling you you're good at. And look, you've created this business, in this profession out of this. So that is amazing. But I can only imagine, working with juveniles and things like that, what you've learned about, how important mental health is. So much I want to dive into. But I do love your podcast. I checked out a couple of episodes, and I like the fact that one of the things you mentioned is, I think when people talk about like mental health and just like mindset, it's, do I have a safe space? And also, is it relatable? Which you talked about, like we love pop culture and entertainment. So I'm excited to dive into like the fact that you tackle on those stigmas. So first I want to ask about like understanding mental health, because I feel like we focus on business owners, and this is a topic I'm very serious about, and I think it's very important to discuss. But I want you to talk about like, what is mental health? What is it and what it isn't? And touch on a few common misconceptions.
Okay. So mental health, I would say mental health has to do with our psychological well-being. It has to do with emotional well-being. It has to do with our health, physical well-being, because our mental health can affect us physically as well. People deal with aches and pains. That's what people normally go to the doctor for. They don't know that they're depressed. And they'll go to the doctor because they're having migraines. Oh, I'm having these headaches all the time. Or, I just have all these aches and pains and tension, back problems. And people go to the doctor for stomach problems all the time. I'm nauseous. I have, stomach issues. I won't say the other one with the D, but people will go to the doctor for that. And they're getting all these medications and nothing is helping. They're not feeling better. The doctors aren't finding anything. And oftentimes the reason why is because you're dealing with something psychological. It's depression. It's some other, how they say depression kills. Not only are people suicidal, but people deal with health conditions that can come from it. People get diabetes because you're overeating. You're eating junk. You're craving these sweets because you're eating emotionally. So a lot can come from it. When we talk about mental health, our mental health is important at every stage of life. It doesn't matter if you're a little kid, a little 5-year-old, all the way up to an 80-year-old person. Teenagers deal with mental health. So it's important that we take care of ourselves. It has to do with our social well-being too, because our mental health, it affects how we think. It affects how we feel, how we behave. It also determines how we handle stress, how we relate to other people, and how we make choices. When we're upset and we're, say you're angry, that's going to affect how you interact with other people. It's going to affect, you might get mad at work, and because you're so upset and you don't have the coping skills to think straight, you might just up and quit your job. I'm not going to work here no more because I feel like I'm being disrespected. They don't care. Instead of taking a step back and talking to your support systems and trying to weigh the options, doing some problem solving, not letting that anxiety get in the way. People deal with anxiety and they don't really know what it is. You go to a job interview and people don't realize how powerful their thoughts are and how that affects us. You go on a job interview and say you're in there and you're looking around at all the other people waiting to interview. And now you're comparing yourself. Oh man, they're probably more qualified than me. Oh, look, I don't know why I went and bought this outfit. I can't even afford it. They're not going to give me the job anyway. And all these negative thoughts. And now all of a sudden, because of those thoughts, you start to feel those butterflies in your stomach, start to feel nervous, start to feel like, you want to leave. You might end up having a panic attack, can't catch your breath. And your behavior is maybe to leave the interview. Maybe you get in the interview and your mind goes blank and you're not able to function. So all of that, everything is connected. I think one of the biggest stigmas about mental health is that, especially in the Black community, is that you need to, I think prayer is good, of course, and having spirituality. But when it comes down to mental health and serious issues that we deal with, sometimes church isn't enough. I think church is a great accompaniment. Like it's something that you should have along with maybe talking with a therapist or something. But one of the biggest misconception is like, oh, we just need to pray about it. Oh, you're under attack right now. You need to pray. You need to repent. God will take care of it. He's going to take it away. There are some conditions, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. You need, yes, prayer works, but people need medication. I think that is a big misconception too about medication. I mean, it's always a person's choice. Nobody's going to force you to take anything, but it doesn't hurt to have a consultation and find out what are the side effects. What questions do you need to ask the doctor? Because like I say, some disorders, you need to take medication and people will go on to live a great life. I think when people see, that misconception too, that, oh, I don't want nobody in my business, or people are going to think I'm crazy. Like, we're so worried about what other people think about us or what people are going to say, and not knowing that those same people that are talking about you, they're dealing with some stuff themselves. They're dealing with mental health issues.
Right.
It takes a lot of courage to go and get help. And I think that people realizing that and removing that word crazy from the vocabulary. Mental health is the same as physical health issues. You got diabetes, high blood pressure, you have to take medication. You have to do certain things to manage it. Same thing with mental health. Like, it's all part of the body. This vessel that we're living in, we have to take care of it. The brain is so interesting. And also too, just knowing that mental health or mental illness is no one's fault. It's not the person's fault who has these things happening to them. It's not the family member's fault. It's not, it's just something we have to take care of and we have to manage and we have to heal from. And we got to support each other in this and stop talking about people and whispering about them. We all have that family member or that friend, and they say inappropriate things. They behave oddly. They're doing stuff, and people in the family are just, don't worry about it. You know how they are. Just don't even pay attention. Instead of trying to get the person some help, or just not even, because sometimes, that's another misconception. People will see family members or see people, their family members on the street, and they're out there, in their mental health crisis, and other people talk about them and say, I don't know why they don't get their family some help. If that was my son, it's no way he'd be out there like that. I get him locked up in the hospital. And it doesn't work like that. People with mental health issues have rights just like everybody else. There is no locking somebody up in a facility. That's what they used to do back in the day. There is a long history of people with mental health illnesses, especially Black people, being treated with less than dignity, less than respect, people being experimented on, people being locked away, husbands locking their wives away for hysteria. Just because, and hysteria wasn't a thing. It's just her being argumentative or her not standing for certain things. And they're going to lock their wife away for the rest of her life. And he go marry somebody else. So
I see it on the movies all the time.
Yes. There's laws against that. So you can't just lock your family member up or force your family member to take medication. It's up to them. And I think that is the most difficult thing. So it's important that we support and we educate ourselves so that we're not out here shaming people, making family members feel bad. Because and talking about other people, just talking, period. Like sometimes we'll be talking about somebody else and you're like, oh, he is so crazy. He was out there talking to himself and this and that. And you might be talking to somebody who has a kid that's going through the same thing, but now you've made them feel embarrassed. They're not going to share. They're not going to seek help. They're going to be like, oh, look how bad they're talking about such and such. I'm never going to tell anybody what's going on with me. We suffer in silence.
Yeah. And it's like that when you say that, it comes like the shaming of getting assistance. And one of the things you talked about is, it shows up in different ways. And, there is the side where not diagnosing anyone. Of course, seek professional help before you go, decide what you do. But you talked about like the choices with like medication or like, talking to someone like a therapist. And I think that from a business owner's perspective, one of the things you mentioned is it shows up in different ways. Like how are you reacting to frustrated situations? And then like dealing with other people when you're interaction. So, taking that step back, like you said, and self-reflecting and saying, now, if this is happening all the time, I may need to talk to someone and seek professional help. So, yeah, I definitely agree. And one of the things I want to ask is, whether someone chooses to get a therapist or they choose to, like seek other forms of help. How do you know? Because I feel like you mentioned, in the Black community, is looked down upon to go get help. Now I see people talk about it more. How do you start to recognize that I need help? I need to talk to someone. And this may be something going on within me. And how do people like recognize that they need help?
I think it's behavior. Like if you notice, or people are telling you, or you notice you're in a negative space all the time, very pessimistic, somebody telling you about the good stuff happening to them, and you're like, well, that's not going to work. I don't know why you're doing it. If you notice that you're just negative all the time, people don't want to be around you. Maybe you're very feeling irritable. You're feeling like, like some people, they walk around and they have this low level of anger inside of them. It's there all the time. And they don't really recognize it because it's just, it's been there for so long. But then they're driving on the freeway and all of a sudden somebody cuts them off. That anger that's always there is going to bubble up to the top. And that's when they start going crazy, I shouldn't use the word crazy, but they start having this road rage and saying all of these things. And that's what happens oftentimes. You're walking around and you feel this inside of you, but now all of a sudden you're snapping at family members. People are walking on eggshells around you. They don't want to be around you. Maybe they're not inviting you anymore. Maybe you're feeling sick and going to the doctor for stuff like headaches, stomach issues, and there is no medication that's helping. Normally you'll see it, like say you're calling off work all the time. And you feel like, you know what, you can't put words to it. Like a lot of times people don't say, I'm depressed, I have anxiety. They just say, I'm not feeling it. Or I don't know what I feel right now, but like we use sound effects. We say certain things that, is, you're not feeling like yourself. You don't feel good, but you can't put a finger on it. And so instead, it's just like you calling off work a lot. You're telling your friends, you know what, I don't really feel like hanging out. Y'all go ahead and go. You're losing interest in a lot of the things that you used to enjoy. Like say you like to cook all the time and you're looking at your TikTok videos, cooking and stuff. And now all of a sudden you don't feel like doing those things. Maybe you're in bed all the time and you're feeling guilt because you're not able to take care of the kids like you would. They're coming in there, mama, I'm hungry. And you like just go in there and fix your brother or sister some cereal and y'all go take your bath and go to bed because you can't really get up. And what people don't understand is that it's not easy to just snap out of it. If it was easy, you would have did. That's what you would be doing. You would snap out of it. And when you see that it's not, we all have our low periods. We all feel sad. We feel low sometimes, but usually those feelings pass with a little bit of time. Like say you went through a breakup and you're crying, you can't eat, you can't sleep, you're thinking all these, what did I do wrong? Or I want the person back and all this stuff. And you might be feeling down for 4 or 5 days. And then your friend might call you like, girl, get up. We going out tonight. And then you go out and, okay, you feeling better. You kind of back on the wagon and you out there. For some people, it's not that easy. They'll go for weeks, months, not able to function. You know that something is going on with you when you're not able to go to work. You're not able to take care of your hygiene. You're sitting in your pajamas for days. You ain't taking a bath probably, or maybe you are. There's a such thing too as what they call hidden depression. People will throw themselves into work and that's all your focus is on. You're trying to find some meaning in your suffering by focusing on work. But yet at the same time, you have a lot of emotional and mental things going on inside that you're not paying attention to. With men, it comes out. Women are more vocal. We might go to the doctor and say, I've been crying all the time. I just feel so emotional. I don't know what's wrong with me. We're more likely to vocalize. Men, they'll come out, their issues come out more in anger, irritation. They're snapping at you and you're like, what is wrong with you? And they're more like throwing themselves into work as well. So I think just paying attention to, are you eating? Are you eating too much? Eating too little? Are you having nightmares? Are you having, you're going in public and you having flashbacks like you got robbed at gunpoint, or you had a really bad accident and now you're having flashbacks. You think you see a person who robbed you and now all of a sudden you're balling up in a corner, you're shaking, or you're having this reaction to where it feels like you're being robbed all over again. Or, are you avoiding things? Are you driving 35 minutes out of your way to avoid passing by this McDonald's where something happened at, where your friend was killed at? So these are things to pay attention to, and maybe you might need help. When your functioning is affected, that is when it's a sign. You can't go to school. You can't concentrate. You're not as motivated maybe to do the things that you want to do. You're talking about stuff that you want, but you never take the action. Procrastinating, if you feel a lot of stress, just feel overwhelmed and nothing can help you to feel better. Those are things, you might need to talk to somebody. You're getting into fist fights with people. And you're getting so mad. You're going off at the grocery store, at the lady at the register over something small. Those are things to pay attention to that may not be normal behavior.
Yeah, we definitely have to, self-reflect and just take care of ourselves and just like you said, like pause and know when it's time to look within yourself and say, whatever pride or whatever, but take care of yourself. That is part of taking care of yourself. Yeah. I want to talk about your background in cognitive behavioral therapy. Let's talk about what that means, if you could share, because it's just so many terms.
Yes. So CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is basically, and it's not a deep type of therapy or treatment. It's very, very effective. It's very effective at treating depression, anxiety. It's used for a lot of other things. There's a trauma-focused CBT. But basically what cognitive behavioral therapy is, what I said earlier, is just the situations that happen to us, something happens to us. The way we think about that situation is going to affect how we feel. And because of how we feel, that is what affects the way that we act, the way that we behave. So say, for example, you're at work and you see your coworker and you say hi to your coworker. This is the situation, right? You say, hey, how you doing? They ignore, they don't say hi back. They ignore you and they just keep walking. If your thought is, what did I do to you? Or, ooh, they have an attitude problem. Now you feel angry maybe, or you feel disrespected. Now your behavior, because you feel angry and disrespected, because your thought of, oh, they have an attitude, oh, what did I do to them? Now your behavior is, the next time you see them, you're not going to speak to them. But if we were to change that thought, you walk down the hall, you see your coworker, they don't speak, and your thought is, oh, well, maybe they didn't hear me. Oh, they must be having something on their mind. I'll just get with them later. Now your feeling is you're going to be indifferent. It doesn't matter to you. You're going to just go about your day and it's nothing. And this is a small level, thought, but it goes deeper than that. Some people have thoughts about just things that have happened in childhood. People have a lot of thoughts that they're not enough. They're not doing enough. They're not worthy. I'm not worthy of love. Maybe the situation was that you went through a breakup and your thought is, that person broke up with me because they found somebody better than me. I wasn't enough. They never wanted me like that anyway. I'm unlovable. And because you feel like you're unlovable, now your behavior is you're depressed, or you're not meeting other people. You're not, it can go a whole bunch of different ways. So when we talk about with the therapy that we do, it's recognizing some of those thoughts. People will have a lot of distorted thinking, because like I say, everything is connected and we don't really notice how we feel. We're not able to put words to it oftentimes. So, everybody has problems, big and small. And to be able to solve those big problems, we have to learn how our thoughts and our feelings and our actions are connected to each other. So that's what basically cognitive behavioral therapy is. And then just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean that thought is true. A lot of the thoughts, we have so much information coming at us at like right now, we're having this conversation and we're having conscious thoughts and then we're having unconscious thoughts that we don't even recognize. You're listening to this podcast right now, but at the same time, there's other thoughts that are coming in, other stimulation. You're hearing sounds maybe from outside coming in. Maybe there's some thoughts coming in about what you have to do after you finish listening to this. Maybe there's other things that we're seeing, and it's all coming in so fast and so much at one time that our brain we're not taking the time to stop and check and see if every thought is accurate. So that's what happens with our thoughts. So oftentimes we get a thought sometimes and we don't fact check it. We don't stop and analyze. We just kind of take it as though it's a lot of educated guesses that we have to make. Like, for example, and educated guesses are good. Like, you don't know for a fact. Like, say you're walking down the street with your friend and you see somebody coming towards you, and you see them coming with a knife. Our thoughts tell us, like, you didn't have a chance to analyze and talk to the person and find out, are you dangerous or what are you doing with that knife? We just our brain automatically guesses for us that, hey, this person might be dangerous, to get out of the way.
Like common sense, move out the way.
Right. But we didn't take time and those educated guesses is what protects us. But sometimes our thoughts get distorted. Say you're walking down the street with your friend and somebody is just walking towards you and your thought is, oh, this person is dangerous. What is this person up to? They're about to do something. And maybe there is maybe they look confused. So two people can have the same situation happen and see it two different ways and have two different experiences. So you might see the person coming towards you. He has no knife, no nothing. And you think this person is dangerous. They're about to do something. So now you're on guard. You need to jump out of the way. Your friend might see the person and think, oh, maybe they lost. They look like they're about to ask for some directions or something. So you might be more like, okay, well, what you need? And you might be more open to talk to the person. But like I say, our thoughts, there's a lot that runs through our minds. The things that we tell ourselves about what's going on around us affects so much. There's many different thoughts that we can have about a single situation. And then our feelings, they come and go. Our feelings come and go as different things happen to us. Like, you might feel angry, happy, sad all in one day. And some of those feelings are uncomfortable, but they're not necessarily bad. Everybody has these feelings from time to time. But sometimes they can be distorted based off of what we think about the situations that have happened, and then the actions are the things that we do, the way that we behave. Our thoughts and our feelings have a big impact on how we act. If you feel happy, you're likely to do nice things. If you feel angry, you might want to act mean and you want to act bad.
We are human at the end of the day. We are human, and so like you said, it's and that's important because it's important to get the background of what that means, because I also want to talk about ways that people can cope with if they're dealing with these things or these thoughts, especially for business owners, and it's Black business owners. I kind of want to get a little technical and define and explain, if you could, coping and what does that actually mean, because you have this podcast, Coping Season. So what does that mean? And also why you decided to name your podcast.
So, well, I guess I was doing a little play on words, cuffing season.
Oh my
God. But coping season, how we have different seasons of our lives. And, sometimes you have the season of love and you're in love and things are going good. You have this season of it's your time and all of your goals and your dreams are coming true. We have all these seasons that we recognize with, and then when we talk about cuffing season, you got that winter season when you want to be booed up, and then spring, summer, you out in these streets, right? Outside. These are the things that people identify with, but do we really have the season or the time? Do we take the time to take care of ourselves, to look at ourselves. Like, it's easy to put our focus on external things, on career, on love, on other people, and depending on other things to make us happy. You know, oh, if I have money, then that's going to make me feel a little happier. Oh, if I'm in this relationship, people put a lot on their partners to make them happy. You're not doing X, Y, Z. You should want to make me happy, instead of making themselves happy and sitting and really thinking, like, what is it about? Is it about me that could change, that I'm not really feeling fulfilled? I'm not feeling happy. What are the things that have happened to me in my life that's spilling over into my future? What are the things from the past, from childhood, that are still bothering me today that I'm avoiding dealing with? So it's coping season. It's time for us to really sit with ourselves, get comfortable with yourselves, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and have these hard conversations with yourself about, you know, why am I going from relationship to relationship and it seems like it's not working out? What is it about me? Why am I latching on to people? Am I seeking somebody that's going to make me feel fulfilled? You know, am I afraid of being alone, of being abandoned? Does that come from childhood? Did something happen with my parents? Was my mother on drugs and she wasn't able to provide and care for me and give me what I needed? And how is that affecting me now? You know, was I abused as a child and I haven't really dealt with this yet? I felt like I was over it, but now I see that it affects me in other ways. Like, now I'm out here dating. You know, what's happening at work? How come I can't get along with people? Why is it that I'm at work and I feel like, okay, I found somebody cool, but all of a sudden it's like, I'm not cool with them anymore. I cut people off so quickly. I can't trust people. Why is it that little things make me so upset? And so looking at that, these are all part of your functioning. This is part of the interaction that we have with other people. And it's not always other people that are the problem. Yes, other people do cause a lot of stress in our lives. People do things to get on our nerves and to try to stop your progress and try to block you. People do hate on you, but it's all about what is it about me? That's the word coping. Coping is just dealing. How do you deal with your problems? How do you, when you feel stressed out, what helps you to feel better? Coping is doing exercise. Coping is having the right diet. Coping is communicating with people and setting your boundaries and letting them know. It doesn't have to be an aggressive way. It doesn't have to be passive. Coping is not letting people walk all over you. It's not holding stuff in until you explode. And then they're looking at you like, ooh, she tripping. Coping is communicating with people right when things happen. Like, hey, you know what? That's not okay with me. And you don't have to ruin the relationship. It doesn't have to turn into this big thing. But there's ways to address and know that your needs and your desires and what you want is just as important as other people. Coping is not taking on other people's problems and just, getting involved in everybody else's business, trying to fix other people all the time without seeing yourself. Coping is, recognizing when you're taking on too much and how to remove yourself, how to, manage these thoughts and emotions that you feel. When you feel like, you're not enough, you have like these thoughts and these feelings of just unhealthy thoughts, uncomfortable thoughts and feelings and emotions that you have all the time. When you come into stressful situations, how are you dealing with these situations? Are you going out and drinking every night to cope? Are you drinking every night to go to sleep? Do you feel like instead of addressing problems, you're just jumping into one relationship to the next to try to find some kind of comfort, somebody else to regulate and manage your emotions for you? Because that's not going to happen. That's just going to lead, recognizing the problems that are happening in your life and how do you deal with them and finding more healthy ways to deal with what you're going through when things happen to you.
Definitely. And I agree. I think we have to, like you said, like deal with and like I feel like entrepreneurship and just being a business owner, there are so many ups and downs. And like you mentioned, like those seasons. So learning how to deal with those times, like you mentioned before, there are times in the day where you're happy and you're sad. There's times when you make a sale in your business and you think you're up. And then the next day a problem happens and you're like, oh, or 5 minutes later. But I also want to talk about, I think it was important to mention, coping and how to deal with that. But you did an episode with I saw with Jeremiah Timmons, and you all talked about coping with being youngish, gifted, and Black. But I wanted to dive into that because I think that being that most of our audience are going off the beaten path, and a lot of them are just jumping into entrepreneurship for the first time, or that comes with a lot of responsibilities. So if you could just touch on, like dealing with the burden of responsibility and perfectionism and emotional distress as, being Black, but also being probably the first, and then also being a business owner. So let's talk about that because it's pressure.
Definitely pressure. I would say that I'm in that boat too. I think.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'm the first. I can't say that I'm the first.
Probably a few.
Of my generation. Yeah.
Yeah, a few.
So, but yeah, just, I think it can be difficult, especially when you're, just not having support. Sometimes you don't have family support, or sometimes strangers support you more than your own family, and just being okay with that and knowing that's part of the journey and just finding other ways to build your support is definitely important to just stay focused. Create yourself a vision board, put all the things that you want and the things that you're striving for on that vision board, cut some pictures out of magazine, put them up there, write on your board, put some encouraging words, because you're going to have to encourage yourself. You're also going to have to get around other people who are doing the same things as you. If that means that other people feel like you've changed, or you're not, you think you're all that or whatever, then so be it, because you're not doing all of this. Like Jay-Z said, you are not doing all of this to stay the same. Of course, you're going to change. So just keeping that in mind, I think that knowing that it's okay. When we talk about perfectionism, sometimes we have to redefine success. Like you're looking at the big picture of, I want to be here. This is what I need to have. But then you don't give yourself credit for all the other little steps that you've taken to get there. It's either all or nothing type of thinking. And you can't do that. You have to have compassion for yourself, give yourself credit for the little steps that you're taking. And then also when setbacks come, you can't just let it consume you. You have to find ways to encourage yourself and know that some of those setbacks are going to be part of, people they've been told no so many times. And I know it doesn't help to hear that. You don't care about hearing that when you're trying to do you're like, yeah, I heard that before. But it's so true. It's so true. And it's the point, the important thing is to be resilient. Like just keep bouncing back. Don't let fear take over you, because everything you want is on the other side of that fear. So when you start to feel that fear, that nervousness, those thoughts in like, what, is this even worth it? I'm just going to give up. So many obstacles coming in my way, so many setbacks. You got to keep going. That is your confirmation that you're on the right track. Just keep doing what you're doing. Dealing with emotional distress, it's important that we talk about some emotional focused coping skills. That would be exercising. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, because when you're on this journey, you're staying up all times of the night. People don't know what you're doing, and all the sweat and the tears and everything you're putting into this. You're losing a lot of sleep at night, doing stuff, getting your website running, trying to get your customers, trying to make sure everything is the way it is, trying to get your social media right. It's a lot that comes with it. And so you want to take care of yourself and make sure you're, doing things that relax you. If taking a nice hot bath is something that you enjoy, give yourself pep talks. You can write down quotes of people who have been successful and things that inspire you. Write down all these different quotes and make sure you look back on them when you're feeling discouraged. Meditation is something that can help. Sitting and being with yourself. Negative thoughts are going to creep in when you meditate. You want to focus on your breathing. There's different things you can look on YouTube and look up meditation and download it. They have an app called Calm that you can do. These are all things that's going to help you to refuel you so that you can keep on going. It's definitely a large burden of responsibility, especially if you're seeking something new. You're trying something new that no one else may have done in your family before. So it comes with a lot of naysayers. It comes with a lot of people saying, that's not realistic. Well, why don't you go and focus on, go to school, go do this, go do that. You need a sure thing. Go get a regular job. And you have to be strong and you have to know what you want and be able to just keep going after it and realizing, perfectionism. No, you're not going to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. And that expectation of setting that expectation of being perfect is what leads to a lot of depression, what leads to a lot of the anxiety that people feel. When we talk about perfectionism, it's, I think definitely being professional, having your stuff together. Yes, you want to have that. But then knowing that belief of everything must be perfect all the time, that sets impossible goals and you're going to feel crushed when you don't achieve them. So strive to do your best. That sets more of a challenge, but also something that's more achievable. When you try to be perfect all the time, you're going to be resistant to change. You're not going to be as flexible and you're going to think that, well, that's a strength of mine because I'm not going to change my what I'm doing. I'm not going to be flexible. That's what makes me stand out. And that's my strength. But at the same time, dig deeper and see this perfectionism that you're focused on so much. If you look deeper, it's going to cause you, perfectionism contributes to a lot of problems like procrastination, stress, anxiety, depression, because you're so focused on being perfect that you're focused on one little thing and you're not getting a whole bunch of other stuff done. And that's where.
That's good. That is good. Because I'm like, there are so many times when I've been like, if I don't have the energy to do it like this, I might as well not do it right now. And I'll wait till tomorrow when I feel like I have more energy. So, that's good.
You won't get anything done. And that's where people come in. That's the people who talk about what they're going to do. Talking, but you're not getting it done because you're so focused on having it done a certain way. Just do your best and you can fix it up later or come, whatever needs to happen after that. But just do the best that you can do. Understand, some situations will cause, some situations you got to be perfect. If you are performing surgery, listen.
You need to get rest and come back.
That needs to be right, sir or ma'am. Yeah. But other situations don't need perfection. You don't have to have the perfect outfit. You don't have to have the perfect, setup. You do the best that you can with what you got right now and just get it done. Get started. You trying to do stuff on YouTube or whatever. You don't got to have the $500 ring light or camera or whatever. Get what you can get and just get started, get it going. And as you go, then you can add more. But the thing is just getting your ideas out there, getting it out there, what you're trying to do. And everything else is going to come. When we talk about in setting your intention, things will manifest. People will come into your space that will help you. Situations, doors will open up that you didn't even think about. It's just first getting it out there. Write down what it is that you're trying to do. Take it from your mind and put it on paper. Write it down. This is what I want. This is the steps that you're going to take. Once you do that, it's already out there in the world. It's out there. And you're going to start seeing, it's going to be like, what? I can't believe this just happened. I had just said that I want to try to rent an office. And now look, somebody just told me that they have it for the price that I'm looking for. Whatever, things will happen. And excuse me, once you set your intention, other things will manifest and will come in your space and you'll be able to do it. So don't focus so much on the future. Oh, I need to do this or that. Or if I don't have this, then this next step can't. Just do just get started and stop being so, focus your time on the most important problems. Don't spend all of your time, because that's what people do when you're focused on perfectionism. People will spend a whole bunch of time focused on things that don't matter, focused on trivial problems. Instead, strive for excellence. There's a difference between perfectionism and striving for excellence. When you strive for excellence, you're going to focus more on the important problems. When you're a perfectionist, you're going to set impossible standards for success. You're going to feel upset when they're not met. But when you strive for excellence, instead, you're going to set standards that are challenging but achievable, and you're going to feel content. You're going to feel happy when you meet those standards because you can meet them. The same thing, people who are perfectionists, they're going to be motivated by the fear of failure. They're motivated by criticism. They're motivated by rejection. But when you strive for excellence, you're going to be motivated by the potential for success, the potential for happiness. So changing your thoughts, you don't want to see yourself and see things in extremes. It's either all or nothing. It's either perfect or failure. That's not true. You got to have balance and see things from a balanced perspective, both the strengths and the weaknesses. And that is what's going to equal success. Stop second guessing yourself. Stop regretting your decisions that you make. Stop having a difficult time making decisions. You want to be able to commit, just like you would to a relationship. You commit to that person, commit to this thing that you're doing, and just stay consistent and just get started. You don't want to be the type of person, people who are perfect all the time, they're going to avoid new experiences because of fear of failure. They're going to avoid taking risks. Their self-esteem is going to be dependent on meeting impossible standards. And that is not going to equal success. So, change those thoughts. It's possible to be perfect in certain areas of our life and not in others, and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I just gotta, did y'all get something for that? Because I was over here like, how your parent or someone that's like chastising you, and they're like, now go ahead and sit down. It's like, it's still going to be okay. You still going to be all right. But you need to stop. You need to, and I feel like that's what we need sometimes. It's like, we need that, it's straight shot. Like, you can't have everything with a bow. So, and I love that you said, strive to do your best. And that is so powerful because we put these expectations on ourselves, like you said, that are sometimes it's just unrealistic. And if every day we can strive to do our best, and I think about, like, for me, and I'm pretty sure people can relate, I used to think, oh my God, I need this big team. And that's all I saw. I was like, I need this big team because there's so much to get done. But I had to sit and I thought, like, just a small win is training that first assistant that's a big win. And then you know that you can do it so that when you do have this big team, it becomes easier. But just, celebrating that small win, I think is so important.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you for just getting on us because we need that.
Was I talking too aggressive? I hope I wasn't talking aggressive.
We're here.
I'm nice. I'm really nice.
No, we need the directness because, so many times people want things with a bow and that's not effective always. And I think that what you said is beautiful and we need to hear it. Okay. So people may be mad.
I'm talking to myself too, y'all. This isn't just for everybody. When I speak, I'm speaking to myself because this is the pep talk. We got to encourage ourselves and remind yourself that you are enough as long as you put it out there and you do. Like, what are your strengths? And we can talk about that too. I think you were about to ask me a question probably, and I don't want to just keep talking. I know we're on the time. On the time limit.
It's so good, but people, you can, she stepped on your toe, but you can take your foot back just a little bit right now. But we're definitely going to talk about, like the strengths and focusing on the strengths and things like that. But I also want to talk about, people feel like, I think one of the things you help people do is live their best lives and do what works for them. It's playing to those strengths, but also like, what do you feel like that does for people by, this is a small win, but also like the success of putting myself first and working on my emotional barriers. Like, what have you seen that has done for people being able to recognize and work on themselves?
Yeah. Well, first, just knowing that you're not alone. I think normalizing what people are dealing with, people feel like, something is wrong with me. Other people have it so good. Other people's lives is going so smooth, or why are they so happy? And I'm not. And you're not odd. Nothing is wrong with you. What you're feeling and what you're thinking is normal. We are all humans. We all go through the same emotions, the same situations. It's just how you choose to deal with them is what makes the difference between, with people and what you see. And sometimes you see people, they're not going to show you all their problems. Yes, there's some people who it looks like they have it together, but they're not. They're struggling just like us. And every day they're dealing with their mental health and finding ways to try to make their life work for them, to live their best life. And it is something that you have to do daily. Like I say, there are different things that you can do. First, recognizing what you feel. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling low today. Okay. So what can you do when you're feeling like that? You know what? Let me get up. I haven't took a walk in 2 days or 2 weeks or whatever. Maybe I need to get this stress out of me. The cortisol in my body must be rising up, and that's why I'm feeling like this. I'm going to go do some exercise. Let me go swim or go run or go walk to get this out of me. And maybe I could feel better and think better. Maybe I need to go and spend some time with my kids and do something. What are the things that bring you joy? You know what? I haven't practiced my art in a long time. I haven't sang in a long time. And you have the gift of music inside of you. Then why aren't you using it? You don't have to be a big time celebrity and on the Shade Room because you're a famous singer. You could go.
Shade Room.
The Shade. I love the Shade Room.
Me too. It's like I don't follow, but I follow.
Right. I be trying to talk about other people like, Shade Room.
Yeah.
I ain't into that. Knowing I know every story. No, I'm just kidding. I know. So yeah, use your gifts and the talents and the things inside of you. And that's what's going to make room for you. I think that just knowing, I forgot the question. I think I'm just going, what was the question?
You're flowing with it. And, like people have to realize that in order for them to live their best life, it's situational and, they're not alone, because I feel like people feel like they're alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. Definitely. I think too with social media, it is really making people feel alone because people on there looking like they just really living it up. They on vacation, they jet setting, going here, there, relationship goals and all this stuff. And, especially when holidays come along, it's easy to feel alone. You see all these women getting all these extravagant gifts for Valentine's and, men out there just doing the thing, driving these nice cars and doing all of these things that we might see. Because, in the Black community, we place a lot of value on, like right now with people who are pursuing entrepreneurship, and you're not getting support from maybe your family or your friends because they haven't seen. Oftentimes we need to see we need to see the Bentley. We need to see the big house. We need to see the proof that you're really doing things when, that's not what it's all about. But unfortunately on social media, a lot of people are becoming depressed and anxious because they're comparing themselves to an unrealistic image. Like people are only posting the highlights. They're not posting, the moments when they're feeling sad or their setbacks that are happening, or the text messages of them arguing with their partner, or the emails from their boss telling them that they didn't do something right, or whatever the situation may be. You're only seeing what they want you to see. And I think that keeping that in perspective, keeping that in mind, and just focusing on yourself, doing the best that you can do, doing what you need to do for yourself. I think, it could be encouraging maybe sometimes to see certain things, but if you notice you're comparing yourself and you feel down, you feel like you're not able to, you're not ever able to get to the level to where you want to be, or, that's when you got to look at that. And you need to focus on your own strengths. Like people who know their own strengths and you use them frequently, you're going to tend to have more success in multiple areas of your life. You're going to feel happier. You're going to have better self-esteem, and you're going to be more likely to accomplish your goals. Like when you use your strengths effectively, it's important to have a clear idea of what they are. What are you good at, and how can you use them? Like sometimes some of your greatest strengths, can be easy to recognize, but then other ones, they might go unnoticed because you feel like they're ordinary, even if they're not. So, what is your strength? Is it wisdom? Is it empathy? Is it bravery? Is it common sense? Is it self-control? Is it patience? Do you have social awareness? Are you open-minded? Are you flexible? Do you have spirituality? Is that your strength? Are you intelligent? Like creative? Are you disciplined? All of these things. Are you athletic? Or do you have ambition? Are you grateful? Do you have practice gratitude? These are strengths. Are you fair, enthusiastic? What is it that you have? And then you want to explore those strengths. Like, what are the greatest strengths that help you in your relationships? What are the greatest strengths that help you in your professional endeavors or with school? What are the greatest strengths that help you to feel personal fulfillment? What helps you to achieve personal fulfillment? Like how do those strengths that you have contribute to your hobbies? How do they contribute to your interests, to pleasurable activities? These are the things that you want to take notice of. Are you a confident person? Are you funny? Are you humorous? All of these things can go a long way. And once you know these strengths, you'll be able to use them in other areas because you know what it is that you possess. And know for yourself, not just what people tell you, know yourself.
Know yourself, yeah. I'm over here like, yeah, that's me, strong. So I feel so strong over here. It's like, yep, I have that strength. And I think about like me, for example, I'm very detail oriented, but I might not be the fastest person, but I bet it's going to be right. It's going to be done right. It might not be done the fastest, but it's going to be done right. And that is a strength. So, saying that, it makes me think like, yeah, I can see that. So yeah, thank you. That was so beautiful. I was like, yeah, that's me. So if you're listening, check box.
Everything you need is in you.
Everything you need is in you. And I think when going back to what you were saying about like social media and comparing, and you never know what someone is going through, the sacrifices that they're making. One thing it makes me think about, I was having this discussion with someone recently, is there is no one's life or anybody who I want to be like, because like you said, we have what we need within us. And not to say you're better than anyone or anything, but it always makes me think about, like you said, you never know what that person went through to get there, or what they're battling at that moment. And also what's meant for you is meant for you. So just some words of encouragement for someone. Your own journey is yours, if you're listening. So this is amazing. And Dr. Tina, when I'm talking to you, and when I talk to a lot of guests, and I'm sure you can relate on your podcast, when we as Black people, we come together and we connect, it just feels like a family, and we can have like a good old conversation about these important things that are happening. But one of the things it makes me think about is like the power of community and this journey of entrepreneurship and what that does for our emotional well-being. You talk about safe spaces, so I'm sure you can talk about the importance of the power of community and creating a safe space. Like, why do you think that is?
Definitely because we have a shared experience. Our experience in the world as Black people has not always been positive. It hasn't been comfortable. It has been faced with a lot of challenges, and we all, in different ways, whether people believe in racism or not, because, and just also, like we always say, Black people are not a monolith. We got Black people are from so many different places, and we have so many different views. We have so many different religions. We have so many differences, but yet we are the same, and we are a community of people. And it's important for us to have these spaces where we can discuss openly what we're dealing with and how to overcome some of these challenges and share information, because there are many of us who have a formula, who have discovered something to be successful or to overcome or to deal with issues and distress that we deal with. You have a certain way of thinking about things, and sharing that is important, especially with the young people. They're just getting started. They're getting out here and they may not know what they may face, but talking to other people and kind of having, because you can hear from your parents all you want. Parents are going to guide us, direct us, tell us all this stuff. But at some point you start rolling your eyes and you're like, okay, yeah, I know. I already heard that before. And
We think we know.
Yeah, we think we know. And sometimes just hearing from other people and just having community, especially like being around people who are doing the things that you're trying to accomplish or trying to do, that's very important. Sometimes you outgrow people and you have to be okay with that. Sometimes you can't take your friends with you because they're not in the same place that you are. They don't have the same mindset. They don't want they're just not there yet. And sometimes you might have to leave those people behind and go and pursue what it is that you're trying to get to and have other people in your space. And maybe later you can come back and get those friends. But for now, you can't let, you got to build community and be around people that can actually help you, that can actually pour into you spiritually, emotionally, mentally, give you ideas about business and point you in a direction that you need to go. If you're struggling with public speaking, take a Black Toastmasters course or, look in your area, see where you can go so you can start practicing some of that public speaking. Find community. Like I say, what is it that you're into? Get around those people. Talk about mental health. You're struggling right now. You feel, like things aren't going your way. You feel defeated. You feel discouraged. Maybe you're taking on too much. You feel overwhelmed. It's good to have these conversations like this podcast. Talking and listening, Black to Business is a great community to be a part of because these are people. Yes. That's something that we are focused on in the Black community is economic. And we want to create generational wealth, but we don't know how to do it. We weren't taught that. We don't come from that. So communities like this is what can help us to get there. It helps to keep you encouraged. You get information from other people. We're sharing information. We're fellowshipping with each other. And it feels good when we can pour into each other and you don't feel like you're alone. You don't feel like other people are hating on you because we all on the same, trying to get to the same place. And some people may be already at the level where you're trying to get to. So those are the people you want to be around because they're not going to hate on you. They're not going to feel like you're passing them up or that they're being left behind or anything. They're going to pull you up to where they are. So I think that's the power of community. And especially, in the Black community, we have a lot of stigma and lack of education about mental health, about emotional wellness. And because of that stigma, the lack of understanding about mental health, we see people talking to themselves and we say, oh, they're dangerous. Oh, you better stay away from that person. Oh, you dating a guy. He say he got bipolar disorder. Girl, learning more about these conditions. It's not a plague on people. It's not something that we need to stay away from or they're unpredictable. They're dangerous. They're going to hurt us. That's not, can people with mental health issues harm people? Yes, they can, but not any more than anyone else. Sometimes people do hear voices telling them to kill people or kill themselves. But for the most part, people with mental health issues, they are oftentimes victims. People beat them up. People talk about them so bad. Family members kick them out, put them on the street because they can't deal with the behaviors, or they get robbed all the time. Women get raped because of their behavior. So it's not, like I say, they're more victims. So that's something that's important for us to build our education about mental health, about how to help people in the community, how to support families, because we have this stigma and lack of education in our community, it's taken a toll on our families. It's taking a toll on the community. We're dealing with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, being killed by the police, being killed by each other with gang violence, hearing gunshots in the neighborhood, hearing helicopters flying by, growing up in households where there is sexual abuse and people are sexually abused in the family from the same uncle over and over, and nobody wants to say anything. Or when people do say something, people don't believe it. There are families where for generations people have been molested. Grandmother has been molested, mother, daughter, daughter's daughter. And when does it stop? No one's talking about it. It's taboo. And we have to be able to have these conversations so that we can change. We're all dealing with something, whether good, bad. We are going through some stressful situations in our life. And, we're resilient people. We are powerful people. We are beautiful people. And we're even more powerful and more resilient when we come together and we're able to support each other and provide, tools and resources and just comfort and letting people know it's okay to talk about it. Say what happened. Get some help for what happened. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel ashamed because it's happening. It's not happening just to you. It's happening to a lot of people. And it takes a lot of courage if you're the one to say, you know what, enough is enough. I want to change. I want this to stop in my family. I'm going to do something different. So do something. Do it for yourself. Do it for your kids. And know that maybe you'll be the person to stop and to change some of this mental health stigma that's going on. It's people talking about family members all the time. Oh, your daddy got something wrong with him, huh? I heard that this and that. Like, stop people in their tracks. Like, what do you know about mental health? What do you mean when you say something is wrong? Do you know that, and educate the people around you. And once you start to do that, maybe that'll stop them from the ignorance and we can, all heal. Our communities can heal.
Yes. Well said, well said. And I think it's so important to talk about because I think what stops some people is, they don't want to face these things, but also the access to resources. So I want you to share some ways or providing some suggested treatment options or access to resources that you can recommend for our audience who are ready to, take that next step to maybe talk to someone or get that support that they need.
Yeah, if you have insurance, you can always call your insurance company. If you got Stigma, United Health, Kaiser, whoever you have insurance with, Medi-Cal, and you call them and tell them you're looking for mental health, you're looking for a therapist, behavioral health services, and they'll give you a list of people in your area. You can go on psychologytoday.com. You can click on there and you can look for different therapists in your area. And you can look, if you're looking for a Black therapist, look through them all, give them a call. I know that I like therapy for Black girls. If you go on that website, and you can search for a therapist there. There's Beam, I think, BEAM. That's another where they have a directory where you can search for Black therapists in your area. You can call your local Department of Mental Health in your city or your state, wherever you're located, and you can ask them, where's the local mental health clinics in your area? And you can contact them and you call and you schedule an intake. And when you come in, and I think just understanding what happens when you go. So you go to the appointment and all you're going to do is they're going to ask you questions about just your life, your history. Well, what do you do for a living? Well, where did you grow up? What's, your background? Do you use any drugs in the past? Have you they're going to ask you all kinds of stuff. And then they'll schedule you an appointment with your therapist. At that time, you can tell them, hey, I prefer a female therapist, a male therapist if you have it, a Black therapist if you have, and you can ask for those things. I'm trying to think what else. If you know somebody in your family and they're having a mental health crisis, and they're in the house and maybe they're, aggressive or they're tearing up the furniture, they're breaking up stuff, they're trying to get into it, y'all can't control the behavior, you can call your local Department of Mental Health. They should have a psychiatric team, a mobile team that can come to your house with 2 therapists it could be a psychologist and a social worker or whoever, and they'll come and try to talk to your family member and try to get them to a hospital if they need to, and take them, in an ambulance. And some cities have, and I know we're oftentimes reluctant to call the police, which is, unfortunate, because we should be able to call for help, but we can't sometimes. But just knowing that the option is there. I mean, even to, we've seen videos when you call for mental health calls in certain cities, they end up killing the person and all of that. But in some cities, when you call, if you do happen to call 911, tell them this is a mental health call. I need a mental health team, because some police stations have it to where they have a police officer who's trained in mental health, and then they'll come out with a clinician who is a mental health, a psychologist or someone to go with them on the call. So you can do that, and then they'll take the person to the hospital. I'm trying to think, you can always take your family member or even talk to somebody. Sometimes you don't know what to say. Oftentimes we got people struggling and we don't know what to say to them. And you think you're being helpful, and you say stuff like, well, you got so much going for yourself, you'll be okay. That's not helpful to somebody who's in crisis. That just makes them feel worse, because it's like, what is right? You're right. I do have a lot going for myself. Why do I feel this way? I shouldn't even feel this way. I'm stupid. That makes them feel worse. So instead, you can offer support by, hey, have you thought about going to therapy? Here's three therapists that I found, three Black therapists that if you want to call, and I'll be right here with you, or if you want to go to the appointment, I'll go with you. Sometimes just listening. Sometimes people just want somebody to listen. And you don't have to put all of this, you don't have to say anything, and be careful about putting your personal views, injecting your personal thoughts and views, just pray about it. Prayer is good, but also
people need that work. You need the help. I think about when my family, I'm always like, now I'm in therapy. I'm like, oh, you should go see a therapist. I feel like everybody should go see a therapist. They're probably like, oh my God, like I'm just talking to you.
Right.
But I feel like, it is important. So I can't give you the professional help all the time, the advice.
Yeah.
But I love it. So Dr. Tina, you cannot step on our toes and give us all this lessons and not tell people how to work with you. If they're interested, what would that look like? And what are some ways that you're assisting people?
Okay. Well, if you're interested, I am accepting new clients right now. If you are located in California, then you can reach me. You can check out my website, and you can send me an email, info at drtinawebb.com. So that's DRTINAWEBB. You can also find my profile on psychologytoday.com. You can just search for my name, Dr. Tina Webb, Los Angeles, California, and you can get info there about more of the services that I provide. You can check out my podcast, Coping Season with Dr. Tina Webb. It airs every week on Wednesdays. I did skip last week, y'all, because I lost my voice. I was hoarse and I couldn't do it. But every Wednesday, you can check it out. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the name is Dr. Tina Webb, DRTINAWEBB. And there's also resources that I put on social media. There's also a section you can check on there on Instagram where I have different places where you can call if you're looking for therapy, different, like I say, resources available. And so reach out to me, and I look forward to working with you. I work with individuals for therapy. I work with couples. So give me a call if it's something you're interested in pursuing.
Yes. Love it. Love it. Well, Dr. Tina, this conversation has been so fruitful, and I really appreciate you taking your time and just lending your expertise, because like I said, this is something that's very important, and the work that you do is so important. So we appreciate you for taking time out your day to be on this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. I'm so glad that you all reached out to me. And,
yes.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And for everybody listening, she gave the ways that you can connect, and we appreciate you for listening. And until next. Listen, we really unpacked so much within the episode, and I hope you also found this information useful. What has stuck with me is the many misconceptions we have about mental health and how it manifests, as well as some of the stereotypes and stigmas we carry around. We do have a lot of learning to do, and we are in some ways responsible for changing the narratives. Additionally, creating healthy coping mechanisms can be as easy as finding new ways to pause when things are hard, compartmentalizing your workload and taking on what you can, creating a team if necessary, or simply being a little more organized from the small tasks to the large tasks. If you're in business or you're just starting out, I encourage you to create systems and safe spaces that allow you to just breathe when it feels like it's too much and recognize that it is okay to not get it right all the time. And most importantly, you can bounce back. Continue to work through the seasons, whether good or bad. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to check out blacktobusiness.com/55 for complete show notes and resources mentioned during this episode. We would also be so grateful if you could rate and review this episode and our show to let us know how helpful this has been for you. Until next time, family.